I'm Hashi Mohamed. I'm a barrister and a broadcaster, and I've written 2 books on social mobility and the housing crisis. In my day-to-day job, I practice in an area of law that is hugely important to plan making, placemaking, and improving our public realm in society. But I come from a very different background to what you might find most barristers are from these days. So I was born in Kenya to Somali parents. I came to the UK as a young unaccompanied child refugee. I went to some of the worst performing schools in the country, and I grew up exclusively on state benefits, having arrived here without both my parents. I happen to also be one of 12 children, so you can imagine the kind of upbringing that I had. And today I find myself in the kind of complete opposite of where I started out, in a top profession, in an area that is predominantly dominated by people who might have been privately educated and of a particular social class. And so what I try and write about in my books is what exactly is happening in society that means that somebody like me, from where I've started, could find themselves in the kind of place I find myself today. What does it tell us about social class? What does it tell us about social mobility? What do we understand about diversity and inclusion in a context where not everybody starts from an equal position? What do we need to learn as to what governments can do in the first instance to try and ensure most children have the best possible start? But also, what can education actually achieve in that context? What do we understand in terms of how people express themselves? We know that in a country like this, accents and vocabulary and how you present yourself can make a big difference on whether or not somebody listens to what you have to say, whether they take you seriously, and much more besides. And more recently, I've also tried to focus as a planning lawyer, which is a big area for me. I work hugely around housing and the housing crisis. Now, if you're living in any major city today in the Western world, whether it's New York, Vancouver, London, Singapore, Beijing, Paris, you are in the middle of a crisis around housing, a crisis around affordability, a crisis for many young people who are talented, hardworking, qualified, want to pursue a career, but struggle because their income simply does not match where they want to live and where the jobs are. And so I have written a great deal about how we tackle this issue, both from a legal perspective, but also from a policy perspective. I've written about what it means to have a roof over your head, the safety and security, what it means to function in a society where your mental health might be affected, how you see the world might be affected, and ultimately whether you achieve what you want to achieve. So for me, one of the things that I try and offer clients is all about where I've come from, where I find myself. A lot has happened in between. What are the lessons that I have drawn, both from a personal and professional perspective, and how might that help you as an organization think about bettering yourself and society as a whole?